Welcome to the show. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks. Now, you are Captain Nielsen
Yes.
and Community Officer Backeroff.
Yes.
And you take calls, you watch for crime, you keep people safe, protect and serve. How is tomorrow night, the National Night Out, affecting the city of Turlock as far as keeping that watchful eye in your neighborhood?
Well, we actually have about 33 block parties is what we call them, 33 neighborhoods that are involved with the National Night Out. The majority of them are neighborhood watch programs, but we do have some new ones that are kind of using this as a kickstart into neighborhood watch. It's one of the largest responses that we've had with National Night Out over the past 5 years, I think it's been, and it continues to grow each year. And with that, we're seeing more and more involvement from the community with getting the mind frame of wanting to fight back against crime and work with the police department and finding ways to reduce crime in the neighborhood and get involved with programs such as National Night Out, Neighborhood Watch, those type of programs. Yeah.
Well, I'm not surprised that the interest is growing because I heard that Turlock is kind of leading the way as far as encouraging National Night Out by waiving some of the permit fees. Can you tell me a little bit about that to help the citizens actually participate in this program?
Correct. The city of Turlock, generally with parade permits and that type of thing, does have a fee that they normally incur, and more than that, it need for insurance. But the city council has decided, in order to keep this a community event, to waive those fees, so that way it encourages these people to come out. And National Night Out is about getting outside of the house and actually neighbors meeting neighbors and understanding what's going on within their neighborhood. So many of us get locked into work, coming home, doing dinner, taking care of the family. You maybe wave to your neighbors, but you don't really get to know
Right.
them on a personal basis. So this gives them the opportunity to come out and get to know each other better, not only their next door neighbor, but neighbors down the street. Like Michelle's talking about with the block parties and stuff, and create a party atmosphere. And like she said, it's actually the community taking their blocks back, saying no crime in this neighborhood, and if you're in the neighborhood up to no good, we're going to know about it and who belongs and who doesn't.
How effective is it to know your neighbor? I remember back when I was growing up 45 years ago or so, I knew everybody on the block. We didn't have neighborhood watch or National Night Out, that sort of thing, but we knew our neighbors. And like Captain Nielsen was saying, you know, you come home, you make dinner, and it's really important to wave to that person's next door to you. Have you seen a reduction of crime in the neighborhoods that promote this sort of event?
Well, I think that without having the actual stats to see whether or not it improves or declines, I think that overall, anytime you increase the communication with neighbors, you're going to see some improvement. The purpose behind Neighborhood Watch and the purpose behind National Night Out, like Captain Nielsen was saying, is to not only start working with the police department, but also to start communicating with your neighbors and start getting to know what's going on in the neighborhood, as well as basically the core concept is observe and report. And so get to know your neighbors, find out what's going on, observe the suspicious activity, and report it to the police department. Start working with us to help reduce the crime in the neighborhood. And so going back to what I was saying, I think it's extremely important to maintain that communication with your neighbors and to notify each other when something's going on, if it's suspicious activity, if you've had a burglary, a car broken into, a theft, whatever kind of crime it is, to let your neighbor know that also, so that they're aware that there's something going on in the neighborhood. Purpose behind that is now you have more eyes and ears. You have more people watching out, more people who can potentially call into the police, call the police, and we can get involved. So it's very effective.
And I think you touched on something that's very important. You know what's going on in your neighborhood. You know who belongs. Our officers have a good idea, a good concept, because they're assigned to a specific area of town, but we do drive-throughs and make contact with people, but we don't necessarily know who the friends are, who belongs, who the relatives are coming and going. You do. So if something's out of place, you're going to know before we are. And that communications between us and the community is crucial, because if there's something out of place, you know about it. you call us, we can go out and actually act on it. If not, we may just assume that, well, somebody is moving in or out of this house, when in reality, they're on vacation and somebody's helping themselves to the property there. So that communications is crucial.
Recently, I've been doing some statistic searching online concerning car thefts and crime rate, and Turlock doesn't pop up very often when I do that search. What do you contribute that to?
I think a very proactive community is they have stood up and said enough's enough. And the neighborhood watch programs that we talked about have continued to grow, and they've seen the benefits of it. If there's a crime in the neighborhood, not only are they reporting the crime, but they're asking us how we can help them help themselves. Michelle has done an outstanding job of reaching out to these people and showing them, coming out and showing them how to basically harden their residence. And little things like do not leave your purse or valuables in the car and your car unlocked. There's a lot of crime of opportunities. So we're helping them help themselves because we, and I'm talking law enforcement in general, not just in Turlock, but in the Central Valley, throughout the state, we need help because we only can be in so many places so many times. So that open line of communications and every set of eyes helps us.
Some police departments have gone to filing police reports online. Has Turlock gone that direction as well?
Yes, we have.
And how would someone do that? Do you have a specific website for that, or can they just go to the city of Turlock and find the link from there?
They can go on the City of Turlock website, just go onto the police department and just follow the downloads, the prompts in there, and it'll walk them right through. Only certain crimes can be reported. If they have specific suspect information or certain things, that can't be reported. But simple theft or loss of property and things, those really aid us because it frees up the officers to go to more in-progress crimes.
What is the response time when a crime is committed where an officer does respond from the time that person calls? And I'm not sure how cell phones work versus landlines. I don't know if there's a routing district that they have to go through. But what is the response time from the time the dispatcher receives that call until the officer is actually on scene?
Our goal for priority 1 crimes, which are generally can be summed up as in-progress crimes, from the time we get that call to the time we get an officer on scene, we try to get it within 4 minutes. Now, there some factors depending on where they are in town, and this again is kind of a goal for all law enforcement. So in progress things are obviously the priority for us. Not to say that the theft of something from your vehicle is not important, but if it happened earlier, it's going to get prioritized a little bit lower. But in progress things, we try to get to 4 minutes.
So when there's a danger level involved, it takes top priority.
Absolutely.
And actually, one thing I'd like to add to that, because I do go to a lot of the neighborhood watch meetings, and I do hear a lot of the citizens and residents complain that, when they call in, it's almost not worth it because by the time the officers get there, that person's gone. Mm-hmm. And what I try to explain to people is that, even though you're calling in about, maybe a suspicious person, and it might take a certain, a longer amount of time than you would like, it's still important that you call in because, one, it puts it on our records and we can start keeping an eye for what's going on specifically in that neighborhood. But it also lets the officers know that something is going on in that neighborhood, that there's some kind of suspicious activity. So even though we don't have an officer that would respond right away, and like I said, in this scenario, maybe like a suspicious person call, they're still going to see that on their screen that there is a suspicious person call in that area. Sometimes our dispatchers will put out a BOL, which is be on the lookout for our officers, and they'll give a description with some information. So if our officers are responding to a call and they happen to be going by that area, it's a possibility that they could either see that person as they're responding to the other call, or it's very likely that they will respond eventually and get there.
And come out and check it out.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, I have a question concerning that, and that is, how important is it that the homeowner or the victim or the person who sees this activity, no matter what it is, how important is it for them to not mess up the crime scene? Because I know sometimes as homeowners, we see suspicious people maybe when it's raining and muddy outside, or that we've seen them touch our car, and then the first thing we do is go out and touch the car right over the top of it. How important is it for you as the officers to dust for fingerprints or check out, the area, for the people who are reporting it to just kind of like leave it alone and wait until you get there?
I think it's very important. It's a big help for us. And I know that having been a victim of a residential burglary, you feel victimized. It's really uncomfortable, particularly if you're in the waiting mode. You want to clean up because you want to try and get past this. But we ask people to just be patient with us. Let us get out there. Let us evaluate what's going on. And also point out, take the time to point out if something's out of place. Because again, we may go into a house and things are disheveled, and we may assume, okay, that's the way it normally is, versus somebody that keeps their house immaculate. We need to know about that, because that way it gives us a better opportunity to lift fingerprints, to take photographs. Be patient with us. It is very frustrating because it is a violation, and people feel very uncomfortable about leaving it in that state. But we will get out there and we will do the best we can.
What advice would you give to someone who is involved in a violent crime? Either someone's broken into their home and assaulted them, or if they're just walking down Main Street or 9th Street, wherever they happen to be. What is the best advice that you can give them after they call the police? What should they do? Should they just wait there, or just
Get themselves to a place of safety.
Okay.
That's first and foremost. If they can, stay on the line. If they think the suspect is still there, stay on the line with us. You're talking about potential of something happening in the house. Get yourself out of that situation. Again, get to a place of safety, a neighbor, some place that we can easily find you. And if the suspect is around, you know that they're just down the street or they're next door, try and stay on the phone with us so that way we can have that communications. Because if you hang up, we may have problems getting back. You talked about the cell phones. The cell phones now are used to go all to CHP. Pretty much now most agencies are taking 911 calls from cell phones, so they're going straight to dispatch. And we're very fortunate. Turlock Police has their own dispatch, so it comes straight to our people, and then it gets routed. So we're very lucky with that. But again, stay on the line with us, or give us a good callback number, because a lot of people will give the house number. They leave the house. We have problems getting in touch with them.
Sure.
So.
Now, you are Captain Nielsen.
Yes.
What is the difference between an officer and captain and police chief and community service officer?
Basically, the hierarchy, police officers are out there in the field. They're going to be the ones responding to all the calls, routine calls. The corporal would be our next level in our department. Supervisory rank. Next would be a sergeant who oversees first line supervisor.
Okay.
Next would be a lieutenant, which gets in the mid-manager ranks. Then we've got captains, and then the chief. So I'm actually second in command of the agency.
Wow.
Community service.
Thanks for joining us today.
Absolutely. Chief Jackson wishes he could have been here, but he was out of town, so he asked me to step in, which is not a problem. The community service officers are non-sworn officers, and they do a lion's share of a lot of reports and stuff to keep the officers freed up for those in-progress crimes. So, and then we have several that are in specialized assignments around our department. She happens to be the crime prevention CSO, so she takes care of all the neighborhood watch programs and actually goes out and takes care of the volunteer program as well. So she's got her plate very full, and all the opportunities that I can pass on to her. But it's great networking for the police department and community. And you talked about how the successes we're having in Turlock, and I think that's it. It's the transparency. It's getting to know the people. Community policing is about having a face and a name, somebody they can actually go talk to. And Michelle's a great conduit for us.
Well, I appreciate you being here tonight as well, and I would like to know how someone can become a community service officer. Do they need to go through the academy? What brought you to this place?
I did not have to go through the police academy. There are a certain amount of college units that are required. I think it's 30 or 60, and it depends on which agency you work for. Most agencies are going to look for people that have some kind of education or some kind of experience in the law enforcement field. And I did happen to take the 832 course, which is a prerequisite into the academy. And I did have my bachelor's degree as well. So, but aside from that, education-wise, that's what the requirement was.
Are you hoping to become a police officer eventually? Is that the kind of the progress that
Personally, it did cross my mind a couple of times early on. I'm actually pretty happy where I'm at now as the crime prevention officer, community service officer. So at this point in my career, I do not plan on moving on to a police officer or a sworn officer position. It's a completely different field. I personally like working more with the community and the crime prevention aspect of it, rather than being out on the streets and taking reports and responding to calls.
Talking about crime prevention, do you have a Crime Stoppers unit in Turlock?
Yes, and actually I'm glad you brought that up. The Crime Stoppers program is a program that's run by all of Stanislaus County, and the way that it works is it's all of the Crime Stoppers tips that we receive are forwarded through one of the Modesto PD, and that agency it coordinates the program, and we receive tips, quite a few tips each month, and we respond to those tips. So our narcotics unit, our patrol investigations unit, they receive those tips and they'll investigate based off those tips that they receive. The Crime Stoppers program is definitely an excellent program because it allows citizens to call in 100% anonymous, meaning that they never have to give their name, they never have to give a phone number, they don't have to give any personal identification. They basically call in and say, you know, I know who committed this crime, or I know that this crime is going to occur, or it's continuing to occur, and if their information leads to an arrest, then they are eligible for a reward up to $1,000.
Oh, wow. So that's a nice incentive for people to kind of give you a call and say, hey, something's going on over here.
Yes,
Yeah.
and that's one of the things that we notice is that a lot of citizens that do witness crimes, they're afraid to call in. You know, they're afraid of retaliation, or they're afraid of the gang activity. And so our goal is to use that program so that they can report it and they can maintain that communication with law enforcement and not have to fear the retaliation.
Sometimes in the Modesto Bee, they run the Most Wanted. Do you have that in the Turlock Journal as well?
I don't know.
I know that that in the Modesto Bee they do run the Crime Stoppers most one. I think that's what you're referring to.
Would Turlock fall under that, do you think?
Yes, it does. Actually, the one in Modesto Bee covers all of Stanislaus County.
Okay.
And I'm not sure if the Turlock Journal is currently doing that. I know that they were recently looking into it, so I don't know if they started doing that as well or not.
And it has been successful with Turlock, people being out in the bee because the tips paid off and we were able to solve crimes that we had basically stumped with, so it's awesome.
Yeah, I know it's interesting to see the people, you know, there, because it's like the old-fashioned post office. You know, it's like, I would think, I don't know, but I would think if I knew my face was going to be on the Most Wanted page, that would kind of deter me a little bit from committing a crime. I don't know, but anyway, where can we find Crime Stoppers, and either online or the telephone number?
There is a website, the Stanislaus County Crime Stoppers website, that you can go onto, and it'll list all the calls throughout all of Stanislaus County, all the tips. And sometimes there's videos that are posted on there if an officer is investigating a robbery or a burglary or something like that, and they get a video or a picture of somebody, they'll post that on there with a brief description.
good.
And sometimes we're looking for identification, so we've got a lot of unidentified people on Crime Stoppers. And other times they're looking to locate somebody, so they'll put the name and the crime that they're wanted for on there.
And City of Turlock National Night Out tomorrow night, August 6th. If someone lives in Turlock and they'd like some information about that, where can they go to get permission to do it and sign that waiver to release the city from liability?
Right here?
Okay.
Well, they can definitely go onto the city website and under the Turlock Police Department website, and they can also contact me either by phone or email. Phone is 209-656-3153, and I can definitely give them more information.
Great. I just received a note from the floor director that we have a few extra minutes, so that's great. I'll talk with you about Community Service Officer Backeroff, I don't want to call you Michelle, I want to call you by your proper official name, was mentioning the gang activity. So since we do have a few extra minutes, what is the gang activity in Turlock compared to the rest of Stanislaus County, percentage-wise?
Boy, to try and put percentage on that, that would be tough. We had a unit that specifically targets gang and violent crimes, and they've been extremely successful over the last 4 or 5 years. Unfortunately, with budget cuts and things, we've had to pare that unit back, but we still have officers going out on an overtime basis. In one of the recent gang sweeps that was sponsored by the countywide task force, a lot of the targets were actually in the Turlock area. And I was very proud being the commanding officer of the field operations unit, which is all the uniformed people. When all those arrest warrants came out and search warrants came out, that the vast majority of them, I think there was only one that was outstanding. Our unit actually picked these people off one at a time before these search warrants and things came out. So we've got a very good handle on it. Is there gang problems within the city of Turlock? Absolutely. Is it out of control? No. It's under control, and in comparison, I came to the Turlock Police Department about 7 years ago. In that summer, we were averaging 2 to 3 shootings a night. And if we have a shooting a week, it's a big story right now. Our gang problems are very much under control. The City Council has made it a priority for the police department. Both Chief Hampton and now Chief Jackson is a priority for him, and so our officers are out there identifying gangs, gang people, any gang activity we try to keep a handle on. In those communities, again, that traditionally have the gang issues out there, have really responded and working together. We did have a gang-related homicide at the beginning of the year, but within a week it was solved because the people came out and identified who the potential person was, and our detectives worked hand in hand with them. We were able to identify them. They're tired of the nonsense that's going on. That's what this National Night Out is about, is getting those community members involved and taking their streets back. And we need their help. And the faith-based groups have been awesome working with us. And we need to get the kids off the streets and things. Will we ever get rid of gangs? Absolutely not. But to get them under control, I know the City of Modesto, the Sheriff's Department, Ceres, Stockton, they're all working towards that. But we need that community help. So it's these type of programs and the work that the CSO Backeroff is doing, and getting that help and asking for it. And it's been marvelous for us. So.
I have one last question,
Yes.
and then I'll let you get out of here and we'll get on to our next segment.
Absolutely.
And that is, I noticed that community service and community well-being is very strong in Turlock. If you can sum that up, I'd like an answer from both of you. Just a brief answer. What do you contribute that to?
You want to start?
Sure. I think it's, like Captain Nielsen was saying earlier, I think it's just a matter of the citizens wanting to do something about the crime in their neighborhoods. They're wanting to fight back, and not literally, but find ways to combat the crime. I also think that the crime prevention unit is a fairly new unit. I'm not sure exactly what year it started, but it's a fairly new program with the Turlock Police Department, and I think that has definitely helped out quite a bit. We've been able to start up quite a few programs. The Neighborhood Watch program, although that's been around for a while, we've been able to really push the program and really get the word out there. We also started getting involved with Crime Stoppers and our RAD program, which is a rape aggression defense course for women. And we started that, I think it was in 2008 or 2009. We have the Business Watch program, the School Watch program, which is much like the Neighborhood Watch programs. And we also have our volunteer program, which is the core of the volunteer program is crime prevention. And it's getting our volunteers out there to be extra eyes and ears for the community. And I think it's these type of programs that we're really promoting within the police department that helps get community response.
And I can sum it up, I think, in one word. It's pride. And pride in the community. And really wanting that partnership and appreciating what they've got and want to hold on to that. realizing it's that small town atmosphere, but it's got big time problems or big city problems, and getting a handle on those. And again, working in partnership, and it starts with city government all the way down. The city council has been awesome working with us, but public safety working together with the fire department and getting out there and working together. Our public safety facility is due to open up here in another month or so. Again, that's fire and police together, and it's one-stop shopping for the community. But I think it's pride in the community and them taking the streets back and saying, not in our neighborhood. So.
Well, thank you very much for joining me this evening. Give us the Crime Stoppers number one more time.
Oh, you know what? I'm sorry, I don't.
Okay,
know it
Crime
off the top-
Stoppers website.
I should know it. Yes, the Crime Stoppers website. And like I said, you can also contact me or go to the crime prevention website, and all that.
Got
The
it.
phone number is on there. You can also text a tip. So I apologize, I don't know it off the top of my head.
We'll have that for YouTube. We'll put the number up there. So just send me an email and I'll get that put up for the
Will do.
YouTube segment. So thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks. We'll see you soon.